encounter with Srila Prabhupada also. It seems that even though I had a lot of opportunity to see Srila Prabhupada being here in Los Angeles, had the opportunity to record him many times, it always seems like a blur, but the first time that I met Srila Prabhupada is still very, very clear in my mind. I had actually, my first encounter with Srila Prabhupada was the Happening LP album, appropriately so for me. And I'd actually started chanting Hare Krishna listening to Srila Prabhupada's record that he'd made in New York, I think about 1967 or 66. So I met Upendra in Seattle and started coming to the temple. They were chanting Hare Krishna like I was. And Upendra had encouraged me to write to Srila Prabhupada. He said, you have to establish a relationship with your guru, and that you should write him. And he said also, he's very, very, if you give him a donation for his book fund, it's very dear to him. So I was working at a television station in Seattle and visiting the temple. So I started writing little short letters to Srila Prabhupada, sending $50, $100, like that. And then, finally, Rath Yatra Festival arrived in summer of 1969, so I traveled down and saw Srila Prabhupada for the first time giving a lecture at the storefront there in the Haight-Ashbury district, just before Rath Yatra. Then the Rath Yatra Festival itself, there was a one-chariot festival, and Prabhupada gloriously sat there on the Rath cart, and we could see him. It was a very long festival, and ended up in the Family Dog Auditorium. So I'd seen Srila Prabhupada, and I had a little more time, so I drove Rabani Nandan and a few devotees here down to Los Angeles. And getting here in Los Angeles, the very second day they said, since you're new, you can get to go on a walk. At that time, most everybody had lots of associations, so the new bhaktas, like myself, Bhakta Karl, who had a shaved head I've had a shaved head for about 7 days. I could barely tie my dhoti without it falling off, and I was now going to go on a walk with Srila Prabhupada. I was now about to meet him face to face, and I was petrified, literally horrified, petrified. You know, in all my lurking and studying and trying to find out spiritual life, I'd read a lot of encounters, the Zen master encounters. That's what I was kind of projecting into my mind what was about to happen. I was going to get grilled on the Bhagavad Gita. I was going to be asked questions, and I was going to make a fool of myself. So they took me over to Prabhupada's house where he was staying. It was close by to the La Cienega Temple, and they brought me in and sat me down, and I was waiting for Srila Prabhupada, and mortified. And then he came in, and he sat down, and his servant said, "Oh, this is Bhakta Karl. He's the devotee from Seattle who's been giving you the donations to your book fund." And Prabhupada looked at me, and he smiled, and he thanked me. And it completely, I was so put at ease. I was so, I felt, oh, I am truly in front of a real spiritual master who's so humble. He has no false ego. He's so full of love with Krishna that he's thanking a mere mortal person like me for giving a few dollars to his book fund. And I knew at that very moment that I was truly in the presence of a pure devotee, because he just dispelled whatever fear and projected ideas that I had. I immediately felt I was in the presence of a truly pure devotee.
As I remember, when I first came into Krishna consciousness, actually my first contact with Hare Krishna was that song in the Hare. Remember that in end of 1960s, they had that musical. It was called Hare. And at the end, the last scene was they would dance around in less than fully clothed, and they would chant Hare Krishna. And I had the album, and I used to listen to that album every day. Later on in 1985, I met a young man in New York, and he said that he was present in the room when Prabhupada was preaching to some young man who was writing a play, and Prabhupada told him to include the Hare Krishna mantra. So that musical, that last song was put there because Srila Prabhupada requested.
This one lady says, if there's a God, why are people starving? Sometimes if the patient is sick, the doctor will prescribe that he does not eat. Finished. That was the answer. That was it, you see. That's called eloquence. He laid it out and just... Now here's another one that's very, very interesting. This boy in the back at 26 2nd Avenue says to Prabhupada in the question and answer period, he says, somebody told me that people who chant Hare Krishna are crazy. Prabhupada says, not somebody, who somebody? And the boy says, my doctor. And Prabhupada says, oh, a medical man? As if to say garbage man, like with that tone. What does a medical man know about spiritual science? But if he wants to understand, let him read our essay, Who is Crazy? You see? And then he ended that class with, and now distribute prasadam. There were gulab jamuns there. He said, we are not dry philosophers. See, so perfect. I know that's perfect drama